All right, we're in a little pre-stream get up here, just a couple of minutes before we're going to go live with week 1 NFL picks for the 2022 NFL season. Exceptionally excited to be here with the folks who can hopefully join us live. And of course, we're going to be doing this season live rather than doing it in video format. Yes, it will still be a podcast for anybody who happens to be tuning in early. Don't worry, my podcast listeners, I will not be leaving you out in the lurch. I'm often imitated, but never duplicated. We're sticking with the podcast format for sure, because it's definitely opened up the show to a number of just a wider audience, really. Half Moon, where am I once again? Can I just get anybody to confirm for me in the chat that the audio sounds all right? Hopefully the audio sounds okay. Sounds good to Half Moon. Fantastic. That's what we like to hear. Now we're also going to fire up Audacity, and let's see if we can do this without everything breaking. So I'm going to start Audacity recording as well, and then go back to the stream, and it seems like everything is still all right. Audio still sound the same? Nothing different? Nothing ventured, nothing gained? This is what we're hoping. This is the big experiment. This will excellent. So that makes the podcast version of this much easier to do. Everybody's just getting a little pre-show here before we start the actual show. We'll be starting the actual episode probably in about 3 minutes. Give everybody a couple of minutes to pop in. I got to say I am exceptionally excited. Call your IT guy. You know what? I really should have hired there's a TikTok account that I really love called Clint from IT. Clint is fantastic. He is hilarious. He's really, really good. If you're on TikTok, Clint from IT. I think the guy's account name is M Names Jeff, maybe. But if you just search Clint from IT on TikTok, he's hilarious. I love him. Okay. I may have to invest in a better webcam. The cam that's on my laptop natively is it's a 720p, so it's fine. Like, it's not a bad laptop by any, or a bad camera by any means, but I mean it is certainly it could certainly be better. We're gonna close that down. We're gonna close those things are all fine. All right. Do Moon, I did get a chance to check out your week 1 episode where we're in line on a lot of picks this week. Not everything, but we're in line on a number of picks this week. So I feel good about that, because within this community, you're somebody that I put, when you say something, I put a lot of weight on it. So the fact that we're in line on quite a number of picks, I feel pretty good about that. All right, stop wiggling. Stop wiggling. Thank you. All right. Didn't know Jimmy G was bad. Yeah, I mean it's but again, you don't really know. Like, you think everybody thinks it's Trey Lance's team. If they struggle for the first couple of weeks, like, anything can happen, really. Okay. So, in just less than a minute, we're going to be kicking off the show here. I'm going to give you a little non-verbal countdown, and then we will be kicking off the week 1 episode for 2022 with the brand new format. I'm a lot of nervous energy on this side of the camera. We'll put it that way. All right, folks, here we go. What's happening, everybody? Justin, Bridgewater's finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, fueled as always by the incredible folks at Nerd Tees, and welcome to week 1 of the 2022 NFL football season. Football on the in America on the bottom side of the 49th parallel is officially back. We just had a killer opening week for college football, a bunch of incredible games there. It's officially football season. If you're Canadian, it's been football season for a while. But for the Americans that are watching, which will be a lot of you, it's officially football season again. The NFL is back, and I could not be more excited to be bringing you season 11 of my NFL football pick show, now in another brand new format. I switched the game up a few years ago, often imitated, never duplicated. I'm switching the game up yet again this year as we are doing this show live for the 2022 season. Usually I'd like to be streaming on Mondays. Of course, as schedules go awry. So occasionally there may be some changes that need to be made. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to stick to the Monday streaming days as much as humanly possible. Not sure whether I'm going to cannibalize myself by streaming at the same time that Monday Night Football is on, but that is the big change for this season, which is the show is going to be live. I've never been a live stream performer before, so this is going to be exceptionally interesting in terms of me as a performer. Like, I had never been an audio performer before. Then I went to podcasting and found that I really loved it. So, I developed that aspect of myself as a performer. Now we're going to see if I can do this thing live. So exceptionally excited. The show will look mostly similar to how it's looked in seasons past, but I feel anyway, trimmed a bit of the fat off of it. It's going to look a little bit different. The format's going to be a little bit different, but come along this journey with me, see if you can spot the differences, and let's see how you like the show for the 2022 season. So yeah, still going to be a podcast. That I kind of wanted to get out of the way immediately. Still going to be a podcast. My audio listeners are still going to get the audio version of this on SoundCloud, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts of choice. That will still be there, but we're going to be doing this live. It's really going to cut down on my amount of work on the back end, and I'm very excited for it. So we are doing a pick'em pool again this year, which I talked about on the week 0, the introduction that I did a couple of days ago. The pick'em pool is still there. You're going to want to go to football.fantasysports.yahoo.com/pick'em/register/join group. And in that, you're going to have a group ID and a password. Group ID is 29213. Password is 123456-789. So you're going to want to get yourself into the Bridgewater's Finest Pick'em Pool for season 11. I believe right now, I checked it a little bit earlier, there's either 17 people or 19 people in the pool up to this point. Those are rookie numbers. We obviously want those to grow really, really, really quickly. You actually can't make your picks in the pool. I don't think they go up until Tuesday. So you haven't missed out on things. You can still hop in and get joined with the Bridgewater's Finest Pick'em Pool with the confidence points, as always, for season 11 of the show. So, I forgot to bring up one important thing here. Let's bring this document back up. Sorry for the mouse clicks in the background. So, what is sticking around from last year, I am still going to take a peek weekly into Fantasy Corner. And as in years past, Fantasy Corner is still brought to you by the Dynasty Trade Calculator. Now, the Dynasty Trade Calculator is one of the absolute best resources available online for dynasty, keeper, and long-term fantasy football. If you're in any league, anything like that plays, multiple seasons where you don't redraft your entire team every year, the Dynasty Trade Calculator is one of the absolute best resources available to you there. I've been with them for quite some time. I have a ton of trust in all of the player rankings, trade evaluations, podcasts, the great experts that they have available at the Dynasty Trade Calculator. My affiliate link is in the description to this stream and to the video after the fact. And just for as little as $3, for as little as basically a cup of coffee these days, you can get access to one of the absolute best resources available online for dynasty, keeper, and long-term fantasy football. That is the Dynasty Trade Calculator. Check out my affiliate link, which is down below. We got a question from Casey Neistat in the chat. How will weekly shoutouts work if the Monday night game hasn't ended yet? Weekly shoutouts. In terms of like who's won the pools and things like that. I'll have to look at it and see kind of who is in the lead with the pool, like for the week. Sometimes the Monday night football game is irrelevant in those terms, and the person that's up top can't be caught. If they can be caught, I'll go over those scenarios. So it actually kind of adds a little bit to the what will be brought into the show. So if the Monday Night Football game could still impact who wins the week, then we'll go over those scenarios. It's a bit tougher when it looks like when you look at the overall leaders. If there's corrections that need to be made in there, I'll certainly do them as like pinned comments on the video. So always make sure you pop back in, check the comments after the fact, like on Tuesday or whatever. And if there's been changes, I'll certainly put them in there. That's a good question, though. It's something I hadn't overly considered, but that's true. But yeah, like I say, usually the Monday Night Football game, sometimes it can impact, sometimes it can't. So we'll go over those scenarios for sure and make sure nobody gets missed. All right. So for my year this year in fantasy football, I'm looking at a bare minimum of 6 teams, maybe a 7th that's drafting tonight. I'm not sure whether I'm sticking in that league or not. We've got to figure that out yet. But as of right now, at the bare minimum is going to be 6 teams. 4 of those are best ball teams. So they're teams that I've already drafted and don't have to worry about them because since it's best ball, the lineup automatically gets reshuffled depending on who did the best for me on that particular week. So it's kind of a draft it and forget it. And I kind of dipped my toes into best ball last year. I wanted to get a little more involved with it this year. These 4 leagues are all charity leagues as well. So I felt pretty good about okay, it gives me a little more best ball experience and the money's going to good causes. So we're in 4 best ball leagues that I don't really have to worry about. The 2 really important leagues are the 2 dynasty leagues, that being my own, which is the Professionals Dynasty Fantasy Football, of which Mr. Half Moon from earlier in the show is a part of, and now the Ante and Co. Dynasty Fantasy Football League. We just did the startup draft for the Ante and Co. League. What was that? That was just a couple of days ago. I think it was on Saturday night. We just did the startup draft for that. I feel like I drafted a real banger of a team. I put my team on Twitter. If you want to check me out there at blockbuster_guy on Twitter, I did the whole team that I drafted in that Dynasty League. Projected to go 12-2 in season 1. I think I'm going to be competitive for a championship right out of the gate. But those are the 2 teams that we're really going to sort of put a focus on week in and week out with this show. In week 1 in the Professionals Dynasty Fantasy Football, I've got a matchup against Conrad, who is a very recent former champion. Did he win last year? No, he won the year before last. So, I mean, he's been a former champion in this league. And in Ante and Co., I got a week 1 matchup against Brian, who I think might be the commissioner's brother. There's a lot of nepotism going on in that league. I can already tell right from the jump. But week 1 matchups against Conrad and Brian, both of those matchups are within like 5 points each. So they're both too close to call. It's really, really tough. I'm projected to win both of them, but they're so close. I got to call both of them too close to call. I'm just excited that NFL fantasy football is back. So we'll see what happens in week 1. I'm expecting a pair of great matchups. Andrew Warren joins us in the chat. If anyone could win Dynasty League, it's you. You are the Patriots Dynasty in that. Just going to give myself a little shoulder pad on that one. Thank you, Andrew. I always appreciate it when you come to pump my tires, which is pretty fantastic. All right. So we've gotten through Fantasy Corner, which is going to be coming back for this year. I will take the time to let you know that if you go to the description of this live stream, of the VOD afterwards, of the podcast, or wherever you consume this show, you are going to find all of my results from last week, all of my straight up against the spread and over under plays for week 1 in the NFL once we get through the show. You're going to find information on joining the Bridgewater's Finest Pick'em Pool for season 11. You're going to find information on joining the NFL YouTube Prognosticators Facebook page. As always, we got a lovely little community here and we talk football basically all year long. You're also going to find information on my great friends and sponsors at Nerd Tees. Enjoyed a little sip of blueberry tea there, which is be very, very, very quickly. I think it's like probably my number 2 tea that's available now from nerdtees.ca. You want to go there and you want to use my promo code, which is BW Finest. That is going to save you 15% at checkout. You're also going to get free shipping in Canada on any order over $100, which is an excellent value. Or if you're one of my viewers or listeners in the United States, you're going to get an excellent conversion rate on the US dollar. Nerdtease.ca, they just recently relaunched back up their physical location after doing some renovations. I think maybe even moving physical location. The dozens and dozens of incredible loose leaf tea blends and accessories that you can find on nerdtease.ca, like the blueberry tea. It's what Nova Scotians are known for, one of many things, but dozens and dozens of great loose leaf tea blends. Nerdtease.ca. The promo code is BW Finest. Find yourself something to love, or find someone you love something to love. You can do it on nerdtease.ca. So we've got our plugs out of the way. We've got the basic format of the show. We've trimmed a little bit of fat here and there. I'm not in as many pick'em leagues. We're not talking about quite as many fantasy football leagues, I don't think. Although the ones we're talking about a little more in depth because they are both dynasty. Now it's time to really break into what you came here for. And what you came here for specifically are week 1 NFL picks. So let's go ahead and dive right into them. I think this week's episode will be a little bit faster than some of the other episodes because look, it's the beginning of the season. We're going to assume almost everyone is healthy and ready to go, unless it's people that moved back onto IR or people that are already on the pup list or anything like that. So really, this week, I'm really flying by the seat of my pants. I'm really flying up on my impressions of these teams. Like I really, it's a lot of gut. It's a lot of my most prodigious gut. And trust me, it might be below camera shot, but I've got a big one. So I'm running on a lot of gut on this one, but we are going to go ahead with our week 1 picks and kick things off with the Thursday night game, which is the Buffalo Bills traveling to Los Angeles to take on the Super Bowl champion LA Rams at SoFi Stadium. Both of these teams were in the top 10 in terms of total offense last season. Buffalo was in the top 5, the Rams ranking at number 9. Buffalo, the number 1 total defense in the NFL from last season, the only defense, as a matter of fact, to allow on average less than 300 total yards against per game. So the Bills defense was really on point. It didn't always translate to scoring defense, but that total defense, the way they were able to limit the other team's ability to move the football, was exceptionally good all season long. Like I say, only team to allow less than 300 yards per game. But if you know anything about me, you know that when I'm doing these picks, I love me a little thing called the rule of 4. I'm going to take the opportunity here for new viewers and new listeners to remind you of just exactly what the rule of 4 is. So the rule of 4 states that in any given week, and it doesn't matter if the week has 13 games, 14, 15, or 16, in any given week, 4 betting underdogs will win their game straight up. It doesn't necessarily help you pick specific upset wins, but it does let you know there's always value in taking an extra look at the dogs straight up, because at least 4 of them on any given week are going to win their game straight up, which means they're also going to cover against the spread. Valuable piece of information to know. And this week, and Half Moon just pointed it out in the chat, 10 home teams are underdogs this week. It's crazy. I don't know. Like, I don't know the last time something like that happened, that so many home teams were dogs in week 1. I'm sure somebody's got that piece of information. I wasn't savvy enough to look it up myself, but that's massive. There's so many home dogs this week. And if you don't believe me about the rule of 4, let's just go ahead and check the numbers, because man, ever since I really pegged and honed in on this, I've been all about the rule of 4. Since the start of the 2016 season, the rule of 4 has hit at a 76.7% clip, which means better than 3 out of every 4 weeks, the rule of 4 hits. And over the last 2 seasons, the 2020 season and the 2021 season, the rule of 4 is a spectacular 30-5. 30-5 for the rule of 4 over the last 2 seasons. That is a massive, massive number. So look, four dogs are going to win their games outright this week. I feel real confident about that. And why do I bring it up here? Because the Los Angeles Rams are taking 2.5 points as a home dog coming off of a Super Bowl win. And I remember this from Half Moon's video. There's something about Super Bowl winners winning in week one and Super Bowl losers losing in week one. Can't remember the specifics. I can't remember how far back it goes, but it's definitely a thing. So even though the Rams are taking the 2.5 points here as a dog, I like them to win this game outright. I think they're not necessarily top to bottom the better football team, but man, I really think coming off the high of winning the Super Bowl, opening the season at home in front of your fans, I don't discount what Buffalo's going to be this year. I think Buffalo's going to be a really good team this year, offensively and defensively. I just feel something about the Rams. It just feels like a solid underdog play for me. I'm going to go ahead and take the Rams to win this game straight up, which also means I'm taking them plus 2.5 against the spread. You ain't escaping me this time, Justin. I'm here now, says the blind Canadian cat. Welcome in, my friend. I appreciate having you here. So, we got the Rams winning the game straight up. We got the Rams covering plus 2.5 against the spread. Total in the game is set at 52.5. I think this is a relatively good total. I just kind of think it stays under. I remember looking at week one stats last year for the previous 6 years. And games with totals over 50 aren't going over a ton. So like I think it was less than 50%. So 52.5, it's the second biggest total of the week. I think I'm going to go ahead and stay under on this one, but I think it's a good number and I think it's pretty close. Let's go Rams 27, Bills 24. Stays just under the 52.5 point total, but Rams win straight up and cover plus 2.5 against the spread. You're also going to notice here just very shortly, actually, how I'm handling the platinum, gold, silver, and bronze picks this year. We're going to do things a little differently there as well. Let's move on. New Orleans in Atlanta. Saints visiting the Falcons. I don't think the expectations are crazy high for either of these teams. I look at the New Orleans Saints as like, they got a shot at a playoff spot. Atlanta is firmly in rebuild mode, but it's one of those things where, like, okay, so folks in the front office might think they're firmly in rebuild mode. Don't tell that to the players because, like, the players are going to try to go out and win every game. And I think this Atlanta, at least the offensive side for Atlanta, I think it's kind of underrated. I dig Marcus Mariota maybe more than some other people do. Kyle Pitts, I think, is going to be a generational talent at tight end. Drafting Drake London was, I think, a very savvy move for the Falcons when he was available to them at what they took him at 8th overall, I think it was. Cordero Patterson still has is still like a real weapon there, whether it's out of the backfield or from a receiver position. They drafted a running back there. It was Tyler Allgeier. I think he was like 3rd or 4th round or something. I think he's got something to him. I think this Falcons offense is a little bit better than I think a lot of people are going to give them credit for. Now, the Saints did have a top 10 total defense last year. They were number 7 in the league, but both of these teams ranked in the bottom 5 in terms of total offense last year. Now, look, I think the Saints offense is going to be much better this year, obviously. Don't necessarily know that it all gels in week one. I just told you about the rule of 4. Upset. We've got the Atlanta Falcons at home sniping a win off of the New Orleans Saints. Division matchup of the NFC South. I just like this as an upset play. Something in my gut tells me that the Falcons, they may not win a ton of games this year, but I think they pull together for a game like this and show like, hey, people need to be paying more attention to us. I think they come out week one. I think they punch the Saints in the mouth. I'm going to take the Atlanta Falcons at home to pick up the win over New Orleans. Against the spread, New Orleans is laying 5.5 points here as a road favorite. I like Atlanta to win, so obviously I'm going to be taking the Falcons plus the 5.5 points. Look, I minus 5.5 for the Saints is, I think, going to be a popular spread play, somewhat in week one, but I like the Falcons to win this thing outright. So give me the points. Total in the game set at 42.5. I think this is a play more so on the number than anything else. It's real tough to stay under a number like that. So I think we're going to go over on that one, but not by a ton. Let's go Falcons 24, Saints 23. So we got Atlanta winning the game outright, taking the plus 5.5, and the game goes over. Andrew, I'm doing my over and under picks and only going to be going prime time games, Thanksgiving Day games, Christmas Day, and the playoffs. School schedule is going to be tight this year. Blind Canadian Cat, Mariota is undefeated against Winston in both college and pro. Really? That's very interesting. That's a hell of a stat right there. I like that. I like that a lot. Much appreciated to the Blind Canadian Cat for coming up with that one. Once again, Marcus Mariota undefeated against Jameis Winston in both college and pro ball. Great one. I love that a lot. Let's go to Carolina now. Cleveland in Carolina. Browns taking on the Panthers. Funny enough, both of these teams were top 5 total defenses last year. Carolina, the number 2 total defense in the NFL in 2021. Cleveland, number 5. These teams know how to stop the other team from moving the football. And once again, didn't always equate to great scoring defense numbers, but to be 2 teams that are in the bottom or the top 5 in terms of total defense, those defenses and those schemes had to be doing something exceptionally well. Neither offense ranked in terms of total offense. Carolina actually in the bottom 5 of total offense last year, but like how much of last season did they not have one of the best running backs in football, right? That's nothing against Chuba Hubbard, but Chuba Hubbard's not run CMC, right? So, yeah, of course, when you've got no Christian McCaffrey for a bunch of the year last year, your offense is going to struggle. They've got Christian McCaffrey now. They've got a new quarterback, and a quarterback. You cannot find a more motivated quarterback in the NFL right now than Baker Mayfield getting his first start for the Carolina Panthers, and for it to be against his old team, who are obviously embattled in a ton of their own problems, both individually and as a team. So this is a really interesting matchup for me, and the revenge factor is definitely real. The revenge factor is there, and I like the Carolina Panthers here at home. I think most of Carolina's success this year, whatever that success might be, I think most of it's probably going to come at home. They don't strike me as a team that travels incredibly well. Let's go ahead and grab the Panthers here at home to get the win over the Cleveland Browns. Now, against the spread, Carolina is laying 2.5 points here as a home favorite. I like them to win. It's a relatively small price to pay. So let's go ahead and lay the minus 2.5 on Carolina. Total in the game set at 41.5. Another game where a second straight game, actually, where I think this is a play on the number as much as anything else. Yes, these two defenses were pretty good at stopping the movement of the ball last year, but it's so tough to stay under 41.5. We're going to go over on this number, 41.5. Let's go over and let's go Carolina 24, Cleveland 20. So we're going to go ahead and grab the over there on 41.5. Carolina wins. Carolina covers minus 2.5. Let's go back to the chat here. Martin, my good friend Martin, longtime member of this community. Martin, just found that you're live. I was trying to watch the Patriots Raiders preseason highlights. That's going on the back burner. Martin, I appreciate you, my friend. Half Moon saying good choice. Andrew Warren, Baker Mayfield will stick it to Cleveland. I agree. Martin, I would say most people want Carolina to win. Go Baker, avoid Garrett. Yeah, stay away from Myles Garrett. That's probably good advice. Good advice for Baker. Matt, the NFL fanatic, is in the chat now too. Great to see you back, Justin. Thank you so much. Blind Canadian Cat, bold prediction. They win by 4+ scores. I'm all on the Baker revenge game. He has a career game. Ooh. I loving the hot takes that are coming out of the live chat. This is why I've enabled the live chat replay for those who are, going to be watching the VOD afterwards. Obviously, check out the top chat, the live chat, if you haven't been looking at it already. There's some fire going on in that chat right now. Okay, next game, we're going to have the San Francisco 49ers traveling to Chicago to take on the Bears. There's been news about the Bears in the last little bit about how they're going to be moving to a new stadium, maybe? Was there something about that? I saw the Pat McAfee show post a video about it, but I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. So there's some news about the Bears that at some point along the line I just flat out missed. Matt says Arlington Heights. Interesting. I just have a legitimate question for anybody that's in the chat right now. Does anybody have any expectations for the Chicago Bears this year? Other than maybe Justin Fields individually taking that step forward as like sort of the undisputed starter now? Does anybody else have any expectations for the Bears other than to not be very good? Like, we're talking about like a top 5 draft pick here, right? Like, I'm not totally out to lunch on this. I'm interested to see what happens in their backfield. I feel like Monty, this might be Monty's last stand in Chicago's backfield. So obviously, I'm not very high on them in this game. They did play fairly well defensively last year. They were a top 10 total defense, but they're taking on a Niners team that was top 10 in both total offense and total defense last year. Matter of fact, San Francisco, the number 3 total defense in the NFL last year. Chicago, one of the bottom 10 in terms of total offense. So can't expect a whole heck of a lot there. And this is where we first delve into our platinum, gold, silver, and bronze picks for week 1. And this is how I'm going to be doing it this year. Instead of the platinum, gold, silver, and bronze picks each being one game, which means I'm locked into the platinum pick is the same game straight up against the spread and over under. I'm varying it up this year. I'm going to have platinum, gold, silver, and bronze picks for each straight up against the spread and over under. So it gives me the time to, or it gives me the ability, I guess, to focus on more games and more teams and highlight those as my strongest picks rather than saying, well, I'm locked into this one game and I expect to sweep it every week because it's just not reasonable. I don't think it's all that realistic. So we're going to have platinum, gold, silver, and bronze picks straight up against the spread and over under. I may use the same game twice, but I'm really going to endeavor to not use the same game in all 3 of those. So this is one that I feel really, really strongly about straight up. So the San Francisco 49ers over the Chicago Bears is my gold pick this week in terms of my straight up plays. So that's the way we're going to do it. And that'll be the way that we do it all season long. The straight up plays, the against the spread plays, and the over under plays will each have their own platinum, gold, silver, and bronze. So obviously, very high on the San Francisco 49ers this week. I'm very high on them as a team. I think they do some damage come playoff time. I think they have a really great regular season. They're a dark horse to like win that division. I took them to win the division. In fact, I'm fairly high on the Niners this year. Against the spread, Chicago is taking 6.5 points here as a home dog. I feel so good about the Niners. I got no problem laying this number at all. So we're going to grab -6.5 for the road San Francisco 49ers. Total in the game set at 41.5, just like the previous game. And once again, it's just so hard to stay under on a number like that. So we're going to go ahead and take the over here one more time. Over 41.5 points in San Francisco, Chicago. Let's go Niners 27, Bears 18. So they might have a touchdown or they might just kick 6 field goals. That's a possibility. I wanted to leave that door open. 27-18 for the Niners. Niners win. Niners cover -6.5. Game stays, or game goes over rather, the 41.5 point total. Let's head back to the chat here. Heading outside of Chicago. Super interesting on that. Half Moon saying none in terms of expectations for the Bears. Last in the NFC North. That's probably accurate. Matt, the NFL fanatic, saying no, but I'm taking the Bears on the points due to the uncertainty of Trey Lance. I can understand that. Blind Canadian Cat, I have no idea how to gauge them, to be honest. Fields might carry them to 500, or they might go 0-17. I'm not sure. Martin, I like their new coaching and management, but it may not be enough to make an improvement this season. I think that's a fair assessment. I think the Bears are a team that could be on the come up in the next couple of years, but this season might be too ambitious. Andrew, Bears might surprise a lot of people. They get up San Francisco. I certainly hope not, because I put a lot of stock into the Niners in this game. Half Moon saying Bears won't score. Brian, yeah, I can't see the Bears putting up more than 14 or 17 points. Half Moon, Bears kicker Cairo Santos, MVP. Exactly. If he just kicks 6 field goals every week, I think you can make a great case for Santos being the MVP. Let's move on to the next game here. We got the Pittsburgh Steelers in Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. Bengals, of course, defending AFC champions, AFC North champions, all kinds of fun stuff from last year. Pittsburgh coming off of a not all that great season, at least numbers wise. They were bottom 10 in terms of total offense. They're also bottom 10 in terms of total defense. And you think about them as a team that is predicated so much on their ability to play defense, but didn't exactly work out all the time for them last season. Now, Cincinnati didn't rank offensively, didn't rank defensively. They were like the picture of an average football team. It just so happened they had so many things bounce their way all in one season, probably as just good karma for having to have been the Bengals for the previous, 20 years before that. They've had so many things bounce in their way that they rode that all the way to the Super Bowl. And I'm not going to say that it was a fluke that they got there. That's not the argument that I'm making. I'm saying they had a number of fortuitous bounces all throughout the season that helped propel them to a Super Bowl appearance. And that's awesome for them. It's awesome for Joe Burrow. It's awesome for the core that they have. Now, we mentioned a little earlier that there's kind of that rule of thumb where like the previous Super Bowl champion wins on week 1, the previous Super Bowl loser loses on week 1. I'm going to take the Cincinnati Bengals here at home. I think they're top to bottom, they're the better football team. I need to see what Pittsburgh's quarterback situation is going to play out like for the first, let's say, 3 weeks to a month before I really make an estimation on what that team's going to be. I need to see significant improvement on their offensive line. They've made moves to shore it up, but I need like significant improvement on their O-line, which is going to make Najee Harris that much better, which is going to make the Steelers that much better. It's going to be a cascade effect. They've got great defensive pieces. I just think Cincinnati comes out and wins this thing in week 1. So we're going to go ahead and grab the Bengals here at home to get the win over the Steelers. However, against the spread, Cincinnati's laying 6.5 points at home. So a full touchdown is what they need to win this game by in order to cover that number. I think this is going to be a hard-hitting classic AFC North matchup, probably predicated on both defenses. 6.5 points is too many for me. So I'm going to hedge my bets on this one, take the Bengals to win, but I'm going to grab the 6.5 points plus 6.5 with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh could surprise in this one and division matchup. On the total, I should say, the total is 44.5 points in this game. This is my first PGSB pick for the totals. 44.5 under on this. I think these defenses are really going to both step up. I think it's going to be a defensive based game, low scoring football game. So I like the Bengals and Steelers staying under 44 as my bronze pick with the totals this week. So under 44.5 points in Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. Let's go Bengals 17, Steelers 14. Bengals get the win, but Steelers cover the plus 6.5. Let's see. Matt, the NFL fanatic, with a couple of comments in the chat. Mike Tomlin still hasn't named the starter yet. That's super interesting. Like, they got really like at least 2 ways they can go, if not potentially 3 ways they can go at quarterback. Matt also chiming in saying, I have Cincy by at least 10. We don't see eye to eye on that one, Matt, but at least we both agree that Cincinnati probably wins the game. Let's go to Detroit now. The Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Detroit Lions. Now, 2 teams that offensively weren't overly anything special last year, at least in terms of total offense, in terms of moving the ball. The real difference between these 2 teams from last year anyway is the defensive side. The Eagles were top 10 total defense, just in at number 10, but still top 10 total defense. Wasn't the easiest thing in the world to move the ball on them last year, where the Lions were in the bottom 5 in terms of stopping anybody from running the football, and where they really, really struggled last year. I think they might have been the worst or one of the 2 or 3 worst teams in terms of stopping the run. And I think Philly's attack with the quarterback that they have and with the roster that they have. They got decent receivers, but I think a lot of it is going to be predicated on the run. Design quarterback runs for Jalen Hurts, sweeps from the wide receivers. They have decent running backs. They also have depth at running back. They've got like two or three guys, I think, who are, legitimate NFL running backs. So the way that they're going to be able to probably dictate the pace of this game on the ground, I think it's going to be super tough for Detroit and Motor City Dan Campbell to come up with the win. I really did think about this quite a while for a rule of four for an upset play. But I think Philly's also was really good as a favorite last year in terms of just winning the game straight up. I think they were like 6-1 or something as a favorite, just winning the game straight up. So we're gonna grab the Eagles here on the road in Detroit. Let's take Philly to beat the Lions. Moon says, "Woo, Detroit. Ever hear of Paper Lion? More like Paper Lions defense. Got some decent rookies starting, but that's about it." Martin, I'd rather like to see the Lions win. You know what? I kind of would too. Like everyone's very enamored with Motor City Dan Campbell off of Hard Knocks, and with good cause. I think he's a super likable personality, and just like when you think football, I think you think of Motor City Dan Campbell. I really do. But I'm going to grab the Eagles in this one. Maybe Detroit surprises me. Now, against the spread, Detroit is taking 3.5 points here as a home dog. That's why the spread is so low. Hard Knocks. That's what Moon just chimed in with. So, yeah, 3.5 points is what Detroit's taking here. I like the Eagles to win, and I think they win this certainly by more than that. So much so that the Eagles minus 3.5 is going to be my gold pick against the spread this week. So, Philly covering minus 3.5. I like that play quite a bit. Total in the game set at 48.5 points. I think this is an under because I don't think either one of these offenses are crazy, crazy special, but I do think Philly's defense will be able to limit the scoring of Detroit. So let's stick under 48.5 points here. We're going to go Philly 24, Detroit 13. And if you wonder why I keep looking down, yes, I'm reading out of my lovely green book. So, 24-13 is what we're going to go with here for the Eagles. Philly wins. Philly covers minus 3.5. Game stays under. Martin, I think Philadelphia historically wins versus Detroit. Is that a thing? Didn't really have a chance to check the numbers straight up, but that could very well be a thing. Unless you have Megatron and Stafford, that was just one game though. All right, fair enough. I feel better about that. Let's go to Houston now. Division matchup of the AFC South, the Indianapolis Colts in Houston to take on the Texans. And Houston is like my little team that could. There are so many pieces on Houston that I'm a big fan of. I'm a big fan of their coach. I'm a big fan of Davis Mills. I'm a big fan of Dameon Pierce. I'm a big fan of Nico Collins. Like I'm a fan of some of the composite pieces that team has on offense. That might be the only thing that team has going for it this year. But look, if Davis Mills was like a top 12 fantasy quarterback, I would be thrilled. Because I'm just such a huge fan of that guy. The Indianapolis Colts, they didn't rank either offensively or defensively last year in terms of total offense or total defense, which is so weird because I felt like that team was so good for so long last year. And then they just completely crapped themselves in the last couple of weeks, lost to the Jags down in, as Pat McAfee puts it, Clanton, and missed the playoffs. Just crazy to me that a team that was that good for that long didn't actually get to see any playoff football out of them. Meanwhile, you look at Houston, they were a bottom 5 total offense. They were a bottom 5 total defense. So as much as I think the offense could take a step forward this year, I got to see it from the defense in order to really make the call that Houston is improved from last year. Given that that's the case, I'm pretty high on the Indianapolis Colts here. Let's take Indianapolis on the road in Houston to beat the Texans, so much so that the Indianapolis Colts are my platinum pick straight up to get the win over the Houston Texans. Now, on the line, Houston is taking 8.5 points at home as a dog against Indianapolis. And as much as I really like Indy to win this game, they don't need to blow Houston out in order to win this game. I don't necessarily know that Indianapolis is upside with the whole new offense, and they got to let that gel a little bit. They do have obviously an absolute monster at running back, probably the best running back in football in Jonathan Taylor. So they definitely have a decent ceiling offensively, but with all the changes, like the change of quarterback mostly, we do want to see kind of what happens first before I really lay that many points. And it's a division matchup and anything can happen. I'm going to take the points here with the Houston Texans. 8.5 is just a little too many for me, especially in week one where we don't have really any usable data on any team. All the data is out of date. So we're going to go ahead and take the 8.5 points here on Houston. Who knows? They might pull a massive upset. Would be the big upset of week one, but we're going to take the 8.5 on Houston. Total in the game set at 44.5 points. It's kind of a middling number. I can understand it if you want to go either way on this. I think it goes over, but just by a couple of points. I'm going to grab the over on this one. Let's go over 44.5 points. We'll go Indianapolis 27, Houston 20. So Indy wins by a full touchdown, but they don't cover minus 8.5. Houston covers plus 8.5. Total goes over. And we're just going to go back here and make sure that I haven't missed anything yet. And I haven't. Another division matchup. Let's go to Miami now. The Miami Dolphins playing host to the New England Patriots. And this is the game this week that I flip-flopped back and forth on the most. So this is definitely the one because this feels like it could really go either way. So the Patriots were a top 5 defense last year, top 5 total defense in the NFL at number 4. Miami, a bottom 10 total offense, but obviously they've addressed that in a big bad way, bringing in Tyreek Hill. That combination of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddell is like one of the best wide receiver 1-2 punches in the NFL. I'm just going to say it. I think Waddell is not criminally underrated because people certainly know who he is and know that he's good, but they're not talking about Jalen Waddell the way they're going to be talking about Jalen Waddell at the end of the season. Let me put it to you that way. I think that's one of the best 1-2 wide receiver punches in football. So that is certainly the offensive upside is definitely there. That said, Bill Belichick knows how to play this division. And even though there's some roster strife in New England, and I don't think that team's in my mind anyway, seems like it has progressively gotten worse since the start of the preseason. So I really don't know what to expect out of New England this year, but hence is why I'm going back and forth on it so much. Grab some water. See, now these are the breaks that usually get cut out of the podcast version. But because this is being streamed live, what am I going to do? Stop the stream, take a sip of water, and come back? That's certainly not going to happen. So yeah, really bounce back and forth on this one. I wanted to take this as one of the upset plays. I ultimately didn't wind up doing that. I am going to take the Miami Dolphins here. Exactly like a bonus track. See, Half Moon gets it. I am going to take the Dolphins here straight up. Like I say, I really like the potential offensive upside. I think Tua takes a big step forward this year. And I mean, with weapons like that, how can you not? I think it's going to limit Mike Gesicki a little bit, but I mean, the combination of Tyreek and Waddell are more than going to make up for that. I think they're going to be able to run the ball decently this year, although I got to see that to really make that call. I don't know what to make of the Patriots right now. So got to see it. So we're going to go ahead and grab the Dolphins here at home to get the win over New England. Now, on the line, Miami's only laying 2.5 points here as a home favorite. I like them to win. Relatively small price to pay. So let's go ahead and lay the minus 2.5 on Miami. Total in the game is set at 45.5 points. I think this stays under because I do not know what I'm going to get from New England offensively. I feel like I could get 3 points or I could get 27. So I really don't know which Patriots offense is going to show up. I'm going to stick on the under on this number, and I think it's a pretty convincing under. I got this game finishing 20-10 in favor of the Miami Dolphins. So I don't think Miami's offense explodes in week one, but I think it's enough to get the job done. So Miami straight up, Dolphins minus the 2.5, take the under on the 45.5 point total. Andrew with a couple of comments in the chat. Don't touch Pats versus Dolphins. Last 3 out of 4 times the underdog has won against the spread. Also, the Patriots struggle against Miami, even when Brady was in New England. And then he says Tyreek Hill struggles with one team, and that's New England. His yards are less than 100 against them. Wow, that's interesting. I didn't know about his historic struggles there. That's very interesting. That could come into play here in week one. I'm still going to feel pretty good about Miami here, but again, that's a lot of that too is a reflection of I just don't know what to make of the Patriots yet. So I got to see it happen. All right. Next on the docket is going to be a quickie. The Baltimore Ravens traveling to New York to take on the Jets, the team that will one day be owned by Gary Vaynerchuk, I am sure. Ravens top 10 total offense last year at number 6. Neither one of these teams were overly great in terms of total defense last year. Jets were bottom 5. Baltimore was actually bottom 10. I would have thought that, again, a team like Baltimore historically, they build so much around their defense that it was a bit of a surprise when I saw that. But the Jets were also bottom 10 in terms of total offense. They're already dealing with injuries. They're dealing with stupid TMZ drama around that team. It just feels like things are never going to turn around for the Jets, or certainly not this season. And even if it does this season, I don't think it's going to be in week one. I think Baltimore walks in and steamrolls the New York Jets here in week one. Let's go ahead and grab Baltimore. We're not going to give too much more thought about it. Let's take the Baltimore Ravens to beat the New York Jets in week one in New York. So the Jets are taking 6.5 points against the spread here. But I think Baltimore wins this game so handily. I have no problem with the Ravens covering minus 6.5. As a matter of fact, Baltimore minus 6.5 is my platinum pick this week against the spread. It's my favorite ATS play of the week. Let's lay the 6.5 points on the Ravens. Total in the game set at 44.5. And I think based on the fact that these defenses struggled last year to stop the other teams moving the ball, I do think this number goes over relatively comfortably. Let's go ahead and grab the over on the 44.5 in Baltimore, New York. Let's go Ravens 31, Jets 14. I feel really good about Baltimore this week. Minus 6.5 is my platinum against the spread play. Let's see. Waddell exploding week one, then. I could see Jalen Waddell going for like $120, something like that. Andrew Warren, Baltimore will bounce back after that collapse with the 8-3 start to an 8-9 record. Yeah, that's right. They did start hot last year and then completely tailed off, didn't they? Martin, so Flacco won't get any kind of revenge for the Ravens? I don't think so either. Yeah, boy, Joe Flacco. Guy just keeps hanging around, doesn't he? All right, let's make sure that we are where we need to be. Perfect. Next up, the game that I'm gonna use one of our good friend Gio Knows' favorite lines, which is a game that may be canceled due to lack of interest. That's the Jacksonville Jaguars in Washington to take on the new look Commanders, quarterbacked by Carson Wentz. So, boy, the Jags. Look, the Jags are the Jags. I don't like their owners. I don't like the Cons at all. Especially Tony Khan, I think is well, I have my thoughts on Tony Khan. I might share them with you on Twitter. I might not share them with you here. Not a fan of the ownership group. I'm a fan of a number of players on that team. Like I think Trevor Lawrence is going to take that step forward this year. I really like Travis Etienne. I felt so bad for him that he had to miss all of last season with it was either an ACL or a ruptured Achilles. I can't remember which one. But the fact that he missed all of last season absolutely sucked. He's going to get that opportunity here in the early part of this season to establish himself as a 3-down back. And I think you're going to see some really, really electric stuff from Travis Etienne early in the season. Meanwhile, you go to Washington side of things, obviously all the controversy and all the embroilment around the Washington Commanders in the front office and the stadium with the poop pipes exploding and just all kinds of just craziness around that team. And then bringing in Carson Wentz and that really weird and awkward photo shoot with the new commander. I don't mind those Commanders uniforms. I really don't, but God, his photo shoot just looked so awkward. Look, Washington's got good pieces too. They got Scary Terry. He's one of the better wide receivers in the game. And I think with the unfortunateness that happened with it was Brian Robinson, wasn't it? With the unfortunateness that happened there. Look, I'm glad it wasn't worse than it was. Obviously glad that the man survived and glad that it's not going to cost him his football career, right? But that is the opportunity for Antonio Gibson with this team to see if he can reestablish himself as a number one. I feel like uh, everyone kind of fell off of Antonio Gibson, and I'm like, I thought this guy last year was like, how do you go from great to like almost not existing that quickly? So both of these teams have composite pieces that I like. Now, which one of them do I trust to win a football game? Well, looking at my notes, the answer to that is neither. I really don't trust either of these teams to win a game, but I certainly don't trust the team that's favored by 3.5 points, no matter which way I was going to go on the game straight up. So, why not? Rule of four, upset play. The Jacksonville Jaguars, despite being winless, I believe, away from home last year, I think they go into Washington and I think they get the upset win here. I don't think it's a blowout by any means. I think this is a very competitive football game, but I like the Jacksonville Jaguars to go in there. Travis Etienne has himself a monster game in week one, I hope. And I got the Jags coming up with the win here. Let's take Jacksonville in the upset play in Washington to beat the Commanders. So obviously, since I like Jacksonville to win, I'm going to take the 3.5 points. This feels like a hedge one way or the other. Even if you like Washington to win, I think this is going to be an exceptionally competitive score at the end, one way or the other. So I feel like you got to grab the 3.5 points there, one way or the other. If it dips down to 3 or 2.5, and you really like Washington, okay, lay the points. I don't think it's going to happen, but I understand why you would do it. 3.5 to have to buy that extra hook? No, thank you. Not for me. So Jags win the game outright, and I'm going to take the 3.5. Total in the game set at 43.5 points. I think this is a low scoring football game, but I do think the winning team gets over 20. I don't think the losing team does. We're going to stick under 43.5 points in Jacksonville, Washington. Let's go Jags 23, Commanders 16. Jacksonville gets the win. Take the plus 3.5 points. That's one of my upset plays. Let's go back to the chat. I think Joe, as in Joe Flacco, is my age, says Half Moon's picks. Jacksonville will surprise everyone. They will get the AFC South. Doug Peterson will win Coach of the Year. Wow. Um, Holy cow. Andrew, that's holy cow. If you're right about that, I owe you a beer at least, because that's a hot take. That is scorching. He also says, I only like Tony Khan in AEW, especially the All Out pay per view was good, even though it was long. I have my feelings on the All Out pay per view. We can talk about them at some point. Khan's best run sports franchise is only for entertainment. I mean, to me, Jacksonville and AEW are kind of competitive, but I get what you're going for there. I noticed I spelled Con wrong. My bad. I like Riverboat wrong, but not Ron. Riverboat wrong. Riverboat Ron, but not for this game. Go Jags. Attaboy, Martin. My favorite beer is Blue Moon. Blue Moon. I'll keep an eye out. All right. Let's go to Tennessee now. The New York Giants in Tennessee taking on the Tennessee Titans. Giants were a bottom 5 total offense last year. They dealt with a ton of injuries, I believe, last year as well, and just the complete collapse of Kenny Golladay and just a complete inability really to move the football whatsoever. Tennessee Titans are this team that, like, maybe it's because I feel everyone overrates Derrick Henry so much, but they're just a team that I can't get behind. And they're a team that I can't seem to put my finger on either. I always feel like when I feel like they are going to win a game comfortably, they wind up losing it. And when I feel like they're going to lose a game comfortably, they're going to wind up winning. And they're just one of those teams, like the Chargers have been for me historically, where I just can't, I don't know, I just can't get comfortable trying to pick their games. And that's why I'm always picking the brain of another member of our community, Keith Bailey, because he's like my Titans insider. Like I'm always picking his brain for info about the team, but I just still can't seem to figure them out. They're fairly heavy favorites here, obviously, and I'm gonna go with them. Like boy, I guess I'm gonna go with them. Like I thought about this game as an upset play, I really did, but can I see the Giants scoring 10 points? Boy, I don't think so. Even against like kind of a pedestrian defense, which is kind of what I think Tennessee is. We're going to go with the Titans here. And I'm going to stick with Tennessee over the New York Giants as my bronze pick straight up. So that's my bronze play in the platinum, gold, silver, and bronze in terms of my straight up picks. We'll take the Tennessee Titans at home to beat the Giants. On the line, Tennessee's laying 5.5 points here as a home favorite. And because I don't think New York's going to get to 10 points, I can see Tennessee getting to 20, so I guess I got to lay the 5.5 points. I'm not crazy comfortable laying these points, but I think I'm going to have to. So we're going to go ahead and lay minus 5.5 on Tennessee. Now, total in the game set at 43.5 points, and this is a play that I love. This is not a high-scoring game. This is not a runaway game one way or the other. One team is going to be measurably better than the other, but I don't think the score flies. So we're going to grab under 43.5 points here in Tennessee, New York. And that under is, in fact, my platinum play on the over-unders this week. Tennessee and the New York Giants staying under 43.5 points. We're going to go ahead and take Tennessee 21, New York 6. So it's a fairly comfortable under. I guess it'll be a comfortable cover of minus 5.5, and Tennessee wins the game outright. Cat, now if you really want to talk 0-17, look no further than the Giants. Understandable. Half Moon, 0-34 in home games in that stadium. Moon, do you want to can you elaborate on that? 0-34 in home games in that stadium. Do you want to just double check that one for me? Andrew Warren, I'm a Mike Vrabel guy, Patriot and hoodie guy. I think they'll take a step back a little bit and we'll get the wild card. Martin, I'd love to see a Giant upset. Hard for me to go against the Titans, though. Oh, Giants Jets 0-34. This game is in Tennessee, is it not? Did I write that down wrong? Or is the game in New York? This may be a downside to streaming because it's in Tennessee. Okay. This may be a downside to streaming because people in the chat are going to be able to gaslight me into thinking that I made mistakes. This could be a real downside to streaming this show this season. All right. It's in Tennessee. Okay. That's good. I'm going to trust you guys. I'm going to trust you not to gaslight me into thinking that I made mistakes. That's really funny. I like that a lot. All right. That's good. But just pointing out that those two teams suck out loud just in general, but also when they're playing games at home. Wow, 0-34. That's brutal. That's just awful, man. Good God. All right. Well, maybe Tennessee beats them by 40. Who knows? All right. The Kansas City Chiefs traveling to Arizona to take on the Arizona Cardinals. This one is super interesting because I went back and forth on this a couple of times. You're looking at Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Everybody knows the deal with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, even though it's we talked about this when we were doing the startup draft for Ante and Co. As soon as you pay him, it's tough to keep everybody around, right? You couldn't keep Tyreek Hill around. You couldn't keep Tyreek Hill happy. Pieces are kind of falling off of that team. That's not to say anything about Juju. I think Juju Smith-Schuster is going to have a bit of a early career renaissance in Kansas City. I think he's going to be good. He ain't going to be Tyreek Hill, and I don't think that's. I'm not blowing anybody's mind in saying that he ain't going to be Tyreek Hill. The Arizona Cardinals are going to be without DeAndre Hopkins for what is it? The first 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. How long is D Hop suspended? Does anybody in the chat know that? So look, they're without their biggest weapon. They're without their Kyler Murray going, shit, D Hop's down there somewhere and just sort of throwing it up. 6 weeks. Oh boy. They do have Marquise Brown. I think he'll step in and do pretty admirably. As a matter of fact, if you were savvy enough to draft Marquise Brown, that's going to be a really good trade option for you around week 4 or 5 for somebody like desperate. They like hit a big wide receiver injury or somebody who's just thin at the position. That's going to be the time to trade him. It's just before D-Hop comes back. So believe it or not, I did go back and forth on this quite a bit. Game's not in Arrowhead. So, you can kind of take the crowd element for the Chiefs out of it a little bit. And remember how hot the Arizona Cardinals started the season last year. People were talking Super Bowl with that team. Obviously, it didn't work out, but people were talking Super Bowl with that team early on. These are 2 top 10 offenses from last year. KC in the top 5 at number 3, Arizona at number 8. I don't think that Chiefs defense has improved. I don't see that Chiefs defense as being better than it was. If anything, they might be a little worse. And they were bottom 10 in terms of total defense last year. I haven't taken my 4th upset yet. Yeah, let's have some fun. Week 1, the Arizona Cardinals upset the Kansas City Chiefs in Arizona in week 1. Wasn't it last year that like the Packers got punched in the mouth in week 1? Was that against New Orleans? Am I thinking of that right? It seems like in week 1, you can kind of count on one of the big teams really getting popped in the mouth early, whether it's in week 1 or whether it's, in the first couple of weeks. One of the real contenders gets popped in the mouth early. I think it could be Kansas City's year. We're going to take the Arizona Cardinals in the upset at home to get the win over Kansas City. Total in the game, or sorry, not total in the game, on the line. Arizona's taking 3.5 points here as a home dog. I like them to win, so give me the points. Give me Arizona plus the 3.5. Total in the game set at 53.5. It is the biggest total of the week. We're still going to go ahead and go over on it. I think these are 2 excellent offenses, 2 defenses that are probably nothing special. If I had to put a defining characteristic on them, I think they're okay, but I think they're nothing special. And like I said, if anything, I think Kansas City's might have gotten a little bit worse. So we're going to go ahead and grab the over here, over 53.5 points. Let's go Arizona 30, Kansas City 27. Big upset win right away in week 1. Martin, Cardinals have been playing better in the first half of the season the last 2 years. Kind of feels that way. He also says, I can see that, Justin, an upset here. Excellent. That'll be a QB duel with Patrick Mahomes and Kyler Murray, putting up high fantasy numbers. I think that's probably accurate as well. And it was last year with Green Bay kind of getting punched in the mouth in week 1 in New Orleans. Cat. Saints punched Packers week 1. Cardinals punched Titans. Pittsburgh somewhat upended Buffalo. Week 1 last year was interesting. I think you could see a bit of a repeat, not in full, but in part. I think you might see a bit of a repeat of that early on this year. All right, we have got 4 games left. We still need the silver pick straight up. We still need the silver and bronze picks against the spread. And we still need the gold and silver picks on the totals. So those will all come from the final 4 games that we have to talk about this week. We are going to start with a division matchup of the AFC West, the Las Vegas Raiders in Los Angeles to take on the Chargers. Now, if you watched my week 0 episode, you know that the Los Angeles Chargers are my pick for the Super Bowl this year. The Los Angeles Chargers beating the Green Bay Packers. What did I have? I think I had 34-28. I think was supposed to be the final score that I predicted in Super Bowl 57 with Justin Herbert winning the Super Bowl MVP. That's my play this year. So obviously, I'm very, very high on these Los Angeles Chargers, who I have not been able to wrangle in my 10 plus years of doing this. The Los Angeles Chargers have been my Moby Dick. They have been my great white whale. I have not been able to pick properly with this team for years and years and years. And look, they're not getting any easier to predict. They got a coach that'll go for it on 4th down from his own 6-yard line. But that team is so stacked on the offensive side and so stacked on the defensive side as well. They got pieces and playmakers all over the place. Very high on the Chargers. They were the number 4 total offense in football last year. They were in the bottom 10 in terms of total defense, but that's where their big opportunity is. And that's where I think we're going to see the most improvement on them this year. In terms of the Raiders, obviously they landed one of the big fish of the offseason, bringing in Davante Adams in that trade from the Packers. So look, Davante Adams and Hunter Renfrow is a really great 1-2 punch at wide receiver. Derek Carr, I think, is going to probably have a career year this year. I don't see how that defense has gotten any better. Look at the Raiders defense from last year and the Raiders defense from this year. I don't see how they've improved. And that has steadily been going downhill for them for years. Just feels like for years that's the element of that team. They are a true glass cannon. They're a team that could put up 30 points a week, but they're going to have 35 scored against them. Like, unless their defense can figure it out, I don't see the Raiders as a team taking that step forward. I really feel good about the Chargers in this one. We're going to grab the Chargers here straight up at home to get the win in week 1 over the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, against the spread, the Chargers are laying 3.5 points here as a home favorite. It's a division game, so buying that extra hook, sometimes you get a little sweaty about that, but I feel really comfortable about them covering that number. So much so that the Los Angeles Chargers covering minus 3.5 is my bronze pick against the spread this week. I really like the Chargers to cover minus 3.5. Total in the game set at 52.5 points. I think this goes over. 2 very dynamic offenses. I need to see how the Chargers defense is going to take that step forward that I expect them to. But we're going to grab the over in this one. Over 52.5 points in Raiders Chargers. We're going to go 31-24 in favor of the Chargers there. And the over 52.5 is going to be my silver pick on my totals there. Chargers, Raiders, over 52.5, silver pick on the totals in week 1. Let's see. Martin, I hope Davante keeps playing like Davante and not have a sad time like Randy Moss did, and Moss came back big time with the Patriots. Yeah, like it's not new for the Raiders to pick up these big elite big fish and not necessarily have them work out all the time. Andrew Warren, Chargers will beat Vegas. I know it was most of the time when a Hoodie mentor beats Hoodie himself, they lose the following week. Last coach that won after beating Hoodie was Flores last year with Miami. Oh, that's very interesting. That's an interesting one there too. I like that. All right, Packers visiting the Vikings, NFC North matchup. The Packers were a top 10 team in terms of total offense and total defense last year, number 10 and number 9 respectively. Tough not to see them taking at least something of a step backwards on the offensive side. It's tough to lose a guy like Davante Adams, right? Like, we just lost arguably the best receiver in football. You still got Aaron Rodgers there. I think he still plays at an MVP-ish level this season. Don't necessarily know that he wins MVP, but I think he plays at an MVP type level this year. And we're going to have to see how that wide receiver core works out. I'm not crazy concerned only because it's going to be by committee. It's not going to be, and this is one of the frustrating things about being a Packers fan, is seeing these situations where you know exactly what's coming. If I can call it sitting on my couch at home, I know a defensive coordinator can call that the ball's going to Davante. Like it's one of the more aggravating parts of being a Packers fan. You don't have that this year. You don't have that go-to piece in the receiving core. You've got Alan Lazard, who I think is probably going to lead the team in targets this year. You've got Sammy Watkins, who's going to be great for the first 4 weeks and then probably disappear. And then whoever really establishes themselves between Christian Watson and Romeo Dubes, I think Dubes is going to have the first crack at things here in week one. I think Christian Watson's questionable. He might not play this week. It's kind of going to be between them. And I think they're really going to make great use, or they should anyway, of Aaron Jones as a receiver. I want to see him spread out wide. I want to see him in the slot. I want to see what Aaron Jones has as a receiver, which is also going to allow us to see what AJ Dillon has as a runner. So I think they can really take advantage of the fact that they got two really good running backs, split AJ out as the better receiver of the two as a receiving threat. I think it's going to make that offense dangerous and dynamic. The Vikings, in terms of their offense, were okay. They were nothing special. They moved the ball all right. They've got pieces that are obviously elite and game breaking. Like you can't have Dalvin Cook at running back and have Jay Jettas at wide receiver and not think that team has game breaking talent, because they definitely do. Jefferson can be, in any given game, the best receiver on the field, and he's going to be the best receiver in this game. Seeing a lot of plays on the Vikings in this one. I'm seeing a lot of people taking the Vikings to win this game straight up, taking that as an upset play. It's going to be a close game without question. I think it's going to be a competitive game. I got to see somebody other than the Packers do it in this division. I think Green Bay gets the season started off right in Minnesota. I'm going to take my boys. I'm going to take the Packers in Minnesota to beat the Vikings. Against the spread, Green Bay's only laying 2.5 points here as a road favorite. I like them to win. It's a relatively small price to pay. I'm going to go ahead and lay the 2.5 points on Green Bay. And the Packers minus 2.5 is actually going to be my silver pick against the spread this week. So Green Bay minus 2.5, that is my silver against the spread play. Total in the game set at 48.5 points. I actually think this stays under. I think Minnesota's defense is going to be a bit better this year than they were last year, but I think the defense is where we're really going to see the step forward for Green Bay. For Green Bay to have the kind of success that they had last year, the defense has to be the one to step forward, because I think the offense is going to be good, but not as good as it was last year. And in that case, the defense has got to win some football games. I think that happens this week. I think the defense steps up, and I think they're going to step up most of this season. I think Green Bay will be one of the better defenses in the NFL this year. Let's go under on this 48.5 point total. Let's go Packers 24, Vikings 20. Packers win, Packers cover, take the under. Kat in the chat goes, I want to believe in the Vikes, but they make it too hard to do so often. It's true. Just ask our buddy Chio. Just imagine there's certain teams that you look at them and it's just like, imagine being a fan of that team. And it's not necessarily derisive. It's just that they're so unpredictable. It's like, man, imagine being a fan of that team. In any case, we're going to go with Green Bay to get the win over Minnesota. Green Bay covers, take the under. Tampa at Dallas. Now, this is a super interesting game because it's a battle of two teams that have lost big pieces on their offensive line. Tampa's lost their starting center. Dallas has lost their starting left tackle, although just today, Dallas signed 40-year-old Jason Peters to their practice squad to kind of get him up to speed in a couple of weeks to maybe step into that left tackle role. Did Jason Peters play last year? I don't know why I can't remember this, and I should have looked it up before the show. But did Jason Peters actually play last year, or did he take last year off? Somebody in the chat will hopefully be able to answer that for me. But yeah, I saw they signed Jason Peters. I was like, that's awfully interesting because he played, I think, the majority of his career, if not all of it, with the Eagles. So like, he stayed in the division but signed with a rival. That's going to be really interesting to see which of those two pass rushes gets home better on what's kind of a wonky offensive lines on both sides. I think the Cowboys are set to take a step back this year. They were a decent team last year. They were the number one total offense in the NFL last year. Defense was nothing special, I don't think. He was in Chicago last year. Okay, thanks, Kat. I appreciate that. I don't know why, for whatever reason, I could not remember whether Jason Peters played last year. I do definitely see Dallas taking a step back on the offensive side. There's going to be no Michael Gallup this week. He's already out. The offensive line doesn't gel and come together. This is a team that every time there's like something wrong with the offensive line, it feels like the team completely collapses. And that has kind of been a leitmotif of theirs for the last 3-4 years. If there's a problem with the O line, be really, really, really wary of going with Dallas really in any given game. And look, Tampa, number 2 total offense in the NFL last year. So the top 2 total offenses, they're going to be able to move the ball real well. It is Tom Brady, even if it's 179-year-old Tom Brady, it's still Tom Brady back there. I'm going to take the Bucks to get the win here. Vegas thinks this is going to be an exceptionally close game. Maybe because the game's in Dallas. If the game was in Tampa, I'm sure this line would be much larger. But let's go ahead and grab the Tampa Bay Bucks on the road in Dallas to get the win over the Cowboys. Now, against the spread, Tampa's laying 1.5 as a road favorite. I like them to win. It's a small price to pay. That makes this game one of those you're either going to go 2-0 or 0-2. Like the spread is so thin that you really can't hedge. So we're going to lay the 1.5 on Tampa Bay since I'm taking them to win. Total in the game is set at 50.5 points. I'm going to go over on this one. Again, top 2 total offenses. Let's see what those defenses can bring. But I do think the point total goes over on this one. Not by a ton, but does go over. Let's go 28-24 in favor of the Bucks here. So Bucks win, Bucks cover minus 1.5 and take the over. Martin, I can see Dallas taking a step back. I'll never forget their final play from the playoffs against the 49ers. Spot the ball themselves, huh? Who needs referees? Oh, God. Just awful. Andrew, Tampa Bay is my Super Bowl pick on the early picks. Tom Brady's my Super Bowl MVP and walking into the sunset to end his career. It's awfully poetic. It could very certainly happen. But for the sake of everyone else in the NFL, I'm going to say I hope it doesn't. That's nothing against Tom Brady, but it's just like, let's not have Tom Brady and whatever team Tom Brady is on win another championship. And the last game of the week, the Denver Broncos in Seattle taking on the Seahawks. Russell Wilson's return to Seattle. And obviously, this Denver team is going to look entirely different than it did last year. They've still got Cortland Sutton. They've still got Jerry Jeudy. They're not going to have Tim Patrick. And I think that is going to have an impact on the team moving forward. But it's an opportunity for KJ Hamler to step up and really seize that wide receiver 3 role in Denver. The Broncos were the number 8 total defense in the NFL last year. If they can repeat that, I think Denver's going to have a ton of success. Because imagine this team being able to move the ball like Russell Wilson moves the ball and have a top 10 total defense. I think they're going to do some damage this year. This is a playoff team as far as I'm concerned. And I think if you look on the other side, Seattle very much is not. Whether Pete Carroll wants to be part of a rebuild or not, he's part of one. And now I'm so glad in retrospect. I really think they should have traded Tyler Lockett, but I'm glad they didn't trade DK Metcalf. And that's nothing against Tyler Lockett, but Tyler Lockett, I think, is 29, and he's not really a player that you rebuild around. You rebuild around DK Metcalf. You rebuild around Kenneth Walker, who they just drafted at running back. You build around those young pieces. You don't build around a 29-year-old wide receiver, right? So I kind of thought, and maybe he will be traded at some point through the season. I know a number of teams that would love to bring a Tyler Lockett into their locker room and into their offenses. So maybe that happens at some point this year. But I'm so glad they didn't trade DK Metcalf. Don't have a ton of expectations for Seattle this year. They were a bottom 5 total defense last year. They can't really stop anybody. I don't think they're going to be stopping too many people this year either. So obviously we're pretty high on the Denver Broncos in this game. Let's take Denver on the road in Seattle to put a bit of a beating on the Seahawks, to the point that I like the Denver Broncos over the Seattle Seahawks as my silver pick straight up in week one. So Denver over Seattle is the straight up silver pick. Now, against the spread, Seattle's taking 6.5 points as a home dog. Lay the 6.5 on Denver. Their offense is good enough to cover this number. Let's take the Broncos minus the 6.5 points. Total in the game is 42.5. This is a play on the number, but it's also a play on like what is Seattle's defense even going to look like this year. And let's have Russell Wilson start off his Denver tenure with a heck of a performance in week one. We're going to go over on this number. It's a play on the number, but also a play on the situation. Over 42.5 points in Denver, Seattle. Let's go Broncos 27, Seahawks 17. And I like the over 42.5 as my gold pick on the totals this week. So Seattle, Denver over 42.5, my gold pick over under. So there you go. Those are my picks for week one of the 2022 NFL season. I'm not going to go over all of them with you here one more time, but what I will do is go over my platinum, gold, silver, and bronze picks because, again, we're doing things differently this year. So straight up, platinum pick, Indianapolis over Houston. Gold pick, San Francisco over Chicago. Silver pick, Denver over Seattle. And bronze pick, Tennessee over the New York Giants. Against the spread, platinum pick, Baltimore minus 6.5. Gold pick, Philadelphia minus 3.5. Silver pick, Green Bay minus 2.5. And bronze pick, the LA Chargers minus 3.5. And on the totals, platinum pick, Denver and the Giants under 43.5. Gold pick, Seattle and Denver over 42.5. Silver pick, Chargers and Raiders over 52.5 points. And the bronze pick, Cincinnati and Pittsburgh under the 44.5 point total. Now, obviously, where this is week one, we don't have a comment of the week. However, the comment of the week segment will be coming back this season, and we'll keep that specifically to comments, not necessarily things that are said in the live chat. We will keep those to comments on the video after the fact. But what I am going to do for comment of the week or commentors of the week for this video is to thank every single bloody person that showed up to watch this thing live, who interacted with me in the chat. That is Half Moon. That's Andrew Warren. That's Martin. That's the Blind Canadian Cat. That is, we're going to keep scrolling up here. Keep scrolling up. We had some other people. Where did you all go? Keep scrolling up. Matt, the NFL fanatic, was in here. Brian Stevens was in here with a comment or two. We're going to keep going up. Casey Neistat early on in the stream. Everybody that showed up, everybody that watched this thing live, who commented on the live stream, thank you so much. Again, this is an experiment for me this year, and we will see how it goes. I'm excited to keep doing this all year long. As the year goes, we'll try to kind of it was an hour and a half. It's longer than I thought it was going to be. So we're going to try to kind of condense it a little bit throughout the season. I feel like I say that every year, and my shows just keep getting longer and longer. But thank you so much for checking out the week one episode, the week one picks. That's it for me. Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter. Fueled as always by the incredible folks at Nerd Tees. We're going to hang out here for just a couple of minutes after the end of the show just to close out the stream. But thank you so much for watching, and we will see you again in week two. All right, folks, we're going to go into Audacity, and we're going to stop the Audacity recording. So there's my podcast file, which will make it super, super easy to be able to have both of them up. And yeah, that's week one. So that's kind of the way things are going to look moving forward. Exactly. Bonus time, bonus stream. Yeah, that's the way things are going to look this year. And there's some kinks to work out of it, I'm sure. But we're definitely confident now, having the first one behind us. I actually brought enough water for myself this time. That was a findings in discovery after doing the week 0 episode. Is boy, I need more water if I'm going to talk for an hour and a half straight time without taking the breaks. So yeah, we have enough water this time. Does that mean you're going to do your following week's picks around the time of Monday Night Football? So the plan right now is like, if I don't work on a Monday, then I can stream whenever. If I work on a Monday, I'm at work potentially until like 8 o'clock my time, which means I'm not home until about 8:30. So I'll know that far enough ahead of time that I can sort of schedule around it. So I might be doing it as it kind of is running into Monday Night Football. If I can avoid it, I certainly will. But I'm also not going to be afraid to go head to head with Monday Night Football, as weird as that sounds, because my thought process on it is there's a lot of people watching that game. There's a lot of people on social media at the time, a lot of people on their phones, on computers, on whatever, that still can toss the show on and are still thinking football and are in that football mindset. So I'm not going to be afraid, I'll put it that way, to go head to head with Monday Night Football. But if I can avoid it, I will. It just seems very rushed to do that with injuries and things that happen a little later. I like doing my picks a couple days later. I agree. It's not ideal, but we're, like I say, we're just gonna sort of try this for this year and work out the kinks as we go. Because there will certainly be things that will be missed, and things that happen on like a Wednesday or something. But I mean, I was kind of running into that issue anyway, because when I'm doing my recordings, I'm recording so early on Tuesday mornings. But it will certainly not necessarily take into account things that happen on Monday Night Football. So there are definitely things that we'll have to sort of keep in mind and sort of observe as we go forward. And if we have to pivot, then we have to pivot. Like I'm okay moving this to Tuesday mornings if I find that it's problematic through the first like month or so. Plus I like to see later what the odds makers say. Yeah, absolutely. And there's going to be times if I'm doing this show on a Monday where there aren't lines for all of the games, which is, you kind of run into that. I sort of, again, it's a problem I kind of run into anyway, doing the streams or doing the episodes when I was doing them before. So a lot of these problems aren't new problems. They just might be a little more frequent. But again, we'll pivot if we need to pivot, but we'll see what happens for the first month or so. So I'll ask now, just for the people who are here live, and if you're watching the VOD of this, then you can toss a comment in the comments as well. What was the pick, if you were here for the whole show? What was the pick that surprised you the most? Could be a straight up play, could be spread play, could be a total. What in there surprised you the most? I really bounced back and forth. Arizona winning, yeah. I really bounced back and forth with Washington and Jacksonville, because both of those teams I just look at as being not great. Just especially, certainly not to begin the season. Um Arizona winning, Arizona over KC. Maybe that you're picking the Chargers by a full touchdown. Could be. I don't trust that Raiders defense. I think the offense is going to be just fine, but I need to see the defense kind of stopping some people. What one did I also? The Patriots and the Dolphins. I bounced back and forth on a lot as well. I could totally see New England going in and pulling an upset there, but it's not the official pick. But I went back and forth on that one a couple of times. Arizona over Kansas City, I think, will make some people mad. Like, I think I'll just flat out, I think it'll just make some people mad. But we shall see. All right, folks. We're a couple minutes past an hour and a half, so I think we will go ahead and end things here. Thank you so much. I can't bet Houston plus points. I understand that, Moon. Yeah, I get that. That wasn't one of the easier ones for me, but 8.5 just struck me as too many in week one. There will be games that will be decided by more than that, but to bet it, here, just bugged me. Yeah, I think we're going to end things here. Thank you so much for taking the time to show up and watch the show live. I think we topped out, I think we had 10 or 11 concurrent viewers, which genuinely I think is kind of good because I only really announced that I was doing this less than a week ago and only announced that I was going live like 15 minutes beforehand. Only had a general idea last night of when I was going to go live. So I think we hit like 11 concurrent or something like that. So it's a start. It's definitely a start. And hey, it's going to be it's going to be a work in progress. So I appreciate everybody taking the journey with me. Thank you so much for taking the time to stop in and check out the show live. And yeah, we'll see everybody next week.